Okay. Oh, oh, I just hit record. There we
Yeah.
go. We're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Our guest today, we were going to be talking about a few of his books. He is an author of international bestsellers. He is a business owner and a coach. Please welcome Andy Buyting. Andy, how you doing today, man?
Doing well, and thank you for having me on your show. This is
Thank you for being
exciting.
on the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Andy and I go way. We go way back. Yeah. So this is gonna be fun. So actually, what we do first on our show here is we do something called Two Truths and a Lie. So you're gonna find out a little bit more about Andy on these couple little points here that he has sent over. If I can, what did I do with them here? Here they are. Oh my goodness. I have I just had to reboot my computer, and then for some reason Evernote doesn't like me anymore. Anyway, I think I remember what they were.
Yeah.
So Andy, okay, number one, Andy ran for an MLA, which is a member of the Legislative Assembly here in Canada, in his home province of New Brunswick. That's number one.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Number two is he has never worked for anybody. Okay. And number three is he has a black belt in karate.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh my gosh.
So who answers the question?
We both.
I know
I know you.
My question is who answers? Who is it?
Well,
You, Nigel, who I've known for almost 20 years, or is it Devin?
Well, I'll let Dev go first. Pick which one's a lie.
I go first because he's just cheats, So. Oh, let's go. Okay, I never worked for someone else or had a real job. I'm a black belt in karate, or I ran MLA. Let's go for the. Oh God, I don't know. These are good ones.
I know, right? Yeah.
For some reason, I think you have a black belt in karate. I don't know. I think you've run for them. Let's say maybe you've actually worked for someone. Maybe you were like you did some part-time job when you were a kid. Let's go with that one. Number two.
Okay, I'm gonna say because I'm pretty sure he's a black belt in karate, and I think your son, you trained with your son. I've seen pictures of you guys training together. And the MLA thing, I think you mentioned something, but I don't know if you've actually run. I say MLA. You haven't run as an MLA.
Now is the point in the show when I reveal the truth. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, I do have a black belt in karate. I trained with my daughter. She went quite far. My son's sport was hockey, and hers was karate, and later basketball.
Your daughter, okay.
Close. My daughter. And yeah, I've never held a real job. So the second one is the truth. The lie is the MLA, because although I love to complain and you do always exercise my right to vote, I will never get into politics. I will stay away from that. If my life depended on it, I think I'd stay away from it, but I like to voice my opinion. So that's the lie.
Yeah. Especially these days with social media, one of our friends, our buddies, Ken Sim was running for mayor of Vancouver, and he shared a little bit of stuff with us, and he said that with social media now, you just get pasted by people. He says it's really, really tough. It's really tough to take, and although he may be running for mayor again of Vancouver, so
I've heard those rumors, and I mean, what an amazing person!
What an incredible guy to be able.
Absolutely, he would. I'm kind of jealous because I think every city needs a Ken Sim, and I'd be very jealous if Vancouver got him and we don't. But I love to see him make a difference somewhere.
I know he's so passionate about, and especially about the Vancouver East Side and homelessness and all of that. He's just a great, and what he told us, how tough it was, just how tough it is for politicians these days because of the media and then social media, and to live through all that with your fan. I just take my hat, and like you, I said, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could run
Good for him for doing that.
Impulsive. Yeah.
So
So
let's hear about this. Sorry, I just want to touch upon the black belt. That must give like, training to be a black belt, you got to have some perseverance and drive to really accomplish something like that. I know it takes something like 7 years, right?
Yeah, I think it takes the average person about 7 years to accomplish. Yeah. And it, most people, what I find interesting is that when you look at, in the workplace with people, most people only have a plan and can, a big part of the population can only work towards a goal that will pay out within 30 days. That 30 days is what a lot of people, plan out to. So to be able to have goals that are a year out is quite an accomplishment. 5 years out, 10 years out, so 7 years, it is a long time commitment. But the interesting thing is that, so I did karate when I was younger, when I was late teenager, mid teenage years, until I was through university. And then I got so busy with life and so on. I actually dropped out. And it was when I got my kids back into martial arts, because I thought it'd be good for them. I felt it was really good for me when I was growing up. And I wanted to get them into it and have them exposed to it. And they got me back in. They said, well, Daddy, why don't you try it with me? And when they were, like 5 and 8 years old kind of thing. And I got back into it. And I went back as a white belt and worked my way back up.
Yeah.
Fast tracked it then because I had accomplished it before, but re-earned the black belt, I guess. And it was almost 20 years to the month that I had hung up the gi, the uniform, and went back to it. So yeah.
Wow.
And what was really fun was actually competing in tournaments.
Yeah.
A 45-year-old. My goal was just to survive. But I actually won a trophy, got second place in my division, and which was not, by the way, they did not break it up by age. So my last fight, which I lost, the last fight was against a 22-year-old black belt. And I was 47 at the time. How is that fair? So anyway, I lost to him, but I beat the others, came in second place, beating out other 20-some-year-olds. So I was pretty proud of that.
Wow. This is crazy because it reminds me, because Reiko, Devin's mom, trained in Taekwondo for a bunch of years, and she got pregnant. And I don't know if it was with Devin or Dylan, but she was still sparring while she was pregnant. And then in the dojo she was training, and they had to shut her down. They're like, you can't do this. So I'm wondering, maybe that's why Devin's the way he is.
I could explain a few things.
That's why I'm so beautiful.
He's got that fight in him. That's what I would take out of that.
Yeah,
that's why he's got that fight in him.
That's what he was going for, I think. Right?
Yeah. That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Getting beaten up in the womb.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But, sorry, Dev.
That definitely builds a very strong work ethic, having to go through those, days, months, years just to persevere for this goal. And does that have something to play with never having like an actual working for somebody or having a job? You had the drive to do it yourself kind of guy?
I've always been someone, I remember growing up, I grew up on a farm, right? So with my father, and I remember him saying one of the most impactful moments of my life growing up is he said, we were working late one night, I'd help out in the farm and so on, and working really late. And I think we were coming home. It was well after dark, 10, 11 PM, something like this. And he was saying that, all the workers, because we actually farmed carrots. So we had one of the largest carrot farms in the country. And we had 70 employees working at this carrot processing plant and so on. And but we were working late, and all the workers go home at 5, 6 o'clock, right? And he was saying, when you're working for yourself, you're working more. And I learned work ethic from him. And I remember him saying that because I forget the question I asked, but it was something about, why do you do this? I just learned that other friends of mine, their dads had real jobs and had weekends off and stuff like this. Like, why don't you do that? That sounds like a good gig. And he said, a big part of it is about the challenge. He said, I don't know what we're going to make next year in profits. So that's part of the challenge. And he said, at the end of the day, now this was back in the 80s, right? With the value of money. He said, at the end of the day, I'd rather work for $30,000 for myself
Yeah.
than make $100,000 or $80,000 working for someone else. And that never, ever left me. And so I've always, and even Nigel knows the story, I went completely bankrupt about 11 years ago and lost everything. And not once did I think about getting a real job. And, thankfully my wife was my biggest supporter, and she only asked me twice. Only 2 times did she bring it up, but she just knew that wasn't going to be me. So I'd rather work my tail off, which I did for a few years for like next to nothing, to build something. And it's just I think the black belt is just, for somebody to do an accomplishment like that. I mean, people do it all the time in sports, right? People go for the Olympics. That's a long-term goal. Or they train for, Nigel and I know a few people that train for triathlons or Ironmans. That's a long-term goal. You don't just go out, train next week, and it's going to pay off because at the end of the month I signed up for an Ironman. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a long-term goal. And, what I've come to recognize is that, and I don't know if it's genetic or what it is, but there's only certain people that do that. And it's, not good or bad, whether you can or cannot go after a long-term goal, but not everybody can do that. And that's what, so I find that interesting too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's cool. And you've also told me many, many times, you talked about, we all kind of plod away in our lives and we, things could be good, but talking about, you kind of get stuck in that status quo, but, blowing up something good to create something great. You've talked about that quite a bit. Hey, so you want to touch on that? What, one of your stories from there?
Yeah. So, and I've heard that saying a number of times in the past, and it's so true in business. If something is going, Jim Collins, I remember reading Good to Great, he talks about, the enemy of good is, or sorry, the enemy of greatness is good. The enemy of something great is something good. And, in business, I've seen it many times. And, I share a story in a moment, but one recent one. So I'll share a very recent one. As recent as last night, I have a 16-year-old daughter who has a part-time job, which kind of a little bit painful in there at the moment. I'm proud of her. She's got a great job, but in earning her own money. But, I talked to her last night about how I don't want you to settle for the paycheck. Don't settle for the allure of the paycheck. Because once you become accustomed to it, and someday you move out and you have rent and you have all these things, you have these commitments and these bills that you need to pay, and you get that steady paycheck, it's really hard to give that up.
Yes.
So she's launching her own small business, and I'm really challenging her that by the end of the year, let's have a challenge. I challenge you to have to quit your job because you're so busy in your business. So I really want my kids to build, we've been very fortunate being exposed to different thought leaders, but I want my kids to build passive income. I want them to build a business. I want them to build, working for themselves as opposed to holding down a real job. So that's a good example. And, I say, anybody can be an entrepreneur if you're willing to take the leap and give up that steady paycheck to be part of something, to create something of your own, or be part of something great. It's the same thing with people that stay in jobs long after they should have given it up because they don't want to give up that good. Life is good right now, but if it's always good, it's never great. So, getting back to the story that I think you're alluding to, Nigel, is in our own business. So one of the businesses I'm involved in is Tulip Media Group. And we do digital marketing. And what we do is we really focus on digital marketing, where we provide our client partners with conversion. So like I tell people, I care about traffic, I care about Facebook likes, but that's not what we measure. That's not a measurement of success. The measurement of success is how many times we make your phone ring, or we have someone who's interested in what you're selling book a meeting or a phone call with one of your salespeople. That's our definition of success. So that's what Tulip Media does. And we were growing. The company is only about 6-7 years old now. but we were growing the first number of years, and we had built up quite a sales force. So we had 7 people in sales, including the sales manager, and they would each do so many phone call, outbound cold calls a day. And, hundreds or cumulative thousands of cold calls a week.
Yeah.
And that's how we started the business. And that's how we grew it in the early days. But it really was driving me crazy, because no matter how much we would work that process, we were never hitting, we went for a stretch where we were not hitting our sales targets. We kept missing them. And, I thought something's got to change, and something's got to change drastically, because, you can't go from where we were to something great with incremental changes, because people are going to resist that. So you need to do something big. And then I was inspired by, a fellow geotier who spoke. So at this business group that we gather in Boston every spring, Patrick Condon from Patty Condon from Denver, Colorado. He's in my book, and he's given me permission to tell his story. But he got up and talked about how he actually was so fed up with how his business was going that he went in one day and he fired all of his salespeople and just turned that business development process on its head. And I was inspired by that. And after a bunch of planning, talking to my partners, I went in one afternoon, and it was 2 years ago in May of 2019. I call it the great pivot of 2019, because we went in and I let the entire sales team go. And to this day, it was one of the hardest things I had ever done, because there were some great friendships there. There were some amazing people there. Love these people, but it wasn't working. And I could not envision the company going to where, to live to its potential with that model. And at the same time, we were transforming, evolving the services we were providing our client partners. I said, we've got what we're doing for our client partners, we need to do for ourselves. And we need, and then some, because we always use ourselves as guinea pigs. But so we went in, let all the sales team go. And I remember immediately after, we were having our quarterly planning sessions. And I explained to everybody what I had done, because I'd had, it kept it, in fairness to everyone else who also had relationships. I didn't share it with anybody, just my partners. But we went in and pulled the trigger there in one day. The next day we were going into planning sessions. I explained in depth what I'd done, the reasons why, and my vision for where we were going. And I called it, at the time, an automated sales process. Like, let's work our automated sales process, or digital marketing and automated sales. And, so when I explained that to everyone, everybody said, okay, I get it. Okay, let's go for it. Let's do this. We're in. And the rest of the team, the whole company said, we're in. And I said, okay, great. So then it was time to set the sales targets for next quarter. And I said, you know what? Let's keep them the same. And my right-hand person, Stacy, God love her, she looked at me, and she has a way of yelling at me in the right times. And she said, Andy, we can't do that. Don't do that to us. Don't set us up for failure. I said, Stacy, we have to do it. Like, we have to do it. We had no choice. We've got to do this. And by the way, the rest of the team always say, well, mom and dad are fighting when that happened, when those arguments happen. So mom and dad are fighting. I went out and she says, okay. But I'm telling you, this is not going to be easy. I said, nobody said it's going to be easy. We went out that quarter with the same sales target we had the prior quarter, but without a sales team. And we leveraged digital marketing. We leveraged all these new tools, these techniques that I was bringing in already, halfway bringing in, but we solidified them. And they said, well, who's going to take the sales calls? Who's going to talk to potential clients? I said, production people are. You guys know how this works inside and out. You're the best qualified. The designers are, the production people, the marketers are, because they'll get on with a prospect and start envisioning, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and get the prospect all excited. And they said, well, we're not salespeople. You don't have to be salespeople. Just talk about what you're passionate about, and that's marketing. And then let them know, here's the sales pitch. Say, we'd love to help you out with that. All you have to do is sign this piece of paper I'm going to email. That's it. That's all it means to close a sale. And
Wow.
so we went out and we did it, get a little bit of a slow start, but literally a week before the end of the quarter, we hit our sales targets for the first time in about 18 months with no salespeople.
Mhm.
And then we got to our next planning session
Mm.
and I challenged them. We tripled the sales targets and
Ah,
we hit it within 6 weeks of that quarter. So, and it's been growing ever since. So it's been
mhm.
one of those classic cases where we had something good. I mean, it wasn't working like we wanted it. It wasn't working nearly as well, but it was good. The people were good. We had a good, steady business, but it wasn't great. And I
Right.
knew there was more within us.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to blow up what was good to pursue something great because we couldn't take what we had then, what was good, and transition it to something great without a major blow up. And we literally had to blow up the sales team, and we haven't had a sales team since.
Mm. So
So it's been,
that's what you call your smarketing.
so then, yeah. So then I actually don't remember where that term came from, who said it first, but I think it was Jessica on her team actually.
Yeah.
What we did was we're combining, instead of marketing and sales operating in two
Yes.
different silos,
Yeah.
we're combining marketing and sales into one business development strategy. And we call it Smarketing.
Smarketing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We perfected it with ourselves. We started doing it with more and more client partners. And we've got some, I mean, actually, one of our best case studies is in your backyard, right in Vancouver, one of our insurance agencies,
Uh-huh.
where we took over their, they were doing digital marketing with someone else. We took over their digital marketing. And in 3 months, we've cut their cost in half
Hmm.
and we've increased their conversions, their online bookings for people interested in buying insurance by like 400%.
Holy
And they're the
smokes.
feature of our own magazine. We publish our own magazine quarterly. And on the front cover, there's a quote there saying that ever since working with Tula Media Group, we've had to hire new salespeople to keep up with the leads,
Right. Right.
which is awesome. So,
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
yeah,
Wow. And then
it
you
doesn't
got,
work with every business, but where it works really well.
you wrote a book about it, right? Your new book, which just came out just a little while ago, called Double Sales, Zero Sales. People, I saw, like, what the heck, because, for me, it's always been, the sales side of it is having the salespeople out on the road, meeting and kind of the touchy feely thing. And, but now, I mean, the past year, the whole world has been turned on its head because of this COVID thing. And all of our salespeople have been shut down, haven't been able to get on a plane or do anything. So we've kind of had to reinvent ourselves too by that touching through media and social media and then Zoom and all of that. And so, I think your book is very timely, with
Yeah.
what's been going on. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So the book was just released and pre-release and became an Amazon international bestseller. And
Yes.
the
Yes.
hard copies are
Congrats.
coming out very shortly.
Mhm.
We're now, it actually should be late June 2021 here. And it does describe the process. It's not a technical book, but it
Mhm.
describes the process, the new way that we look at business development
Yeah.
and kind of the process that we follow and how other businesses have used similar process. Because we've had we've had a number of client partners that have signed on the exact reason you just said. COVID shut them down from trade shows and conferences where they
Yeah.
would normally rely on to meet new leads.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Mhm.
How else did they do it? And we've helped them with their strategy and pivot to more online, where we have a number of client partners that says, we're not going back to trade shows. This is more effective and cheaper, and there's no
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had a trade show. There was this trade show that we've been going to. It's a biannual one. Been doing it for years and years and years. It was supposed to be in Louisiana, and because of COVID, it got canceled, right? Shut down. And then they reopened it as online. So I had to do an online presentation, kind of packaged it up, put it out. I taped it through my Zoom, and I did a whole PowerPoint, and then I sent that in, and then it was in this virtual trade show. So now there's these virtual trade shows. It's been, they're still, trying to work out all the bugs and everything, but I think, that's, it's coming. It's the future, really. So you don't have to, get 10,000 people together, and although it's fun to go to these places and, but I think there's going to be, cut down considerably, I think, because
That's my thought too, is that business travel will come back, but it'll be 25% of what it used to be.
yeah. Yeah, I have a
I
feeling the
really
same.
believe that. And might come back more, but it'll take a long time because people were, the way I put it, my 85-year-old father was forced to learn how to use Zoom. Now he's comfortable with Zoom.
Yeah.
If he's comfortable with Zoom, anybody can communicate through Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
Oh man. So Deb, do you have any questions? Because you're kind of a young guy starting, but you got a bunch of businesses, right? So
yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking. Yeah, I got a question for you. Like,
Yeah.
what would be, obviously, you're, strong-willed and you've been working on these things, and then you got to make these big sacrifices. But what would be like your key point, one of your big points that you would share with like a younger generation of entrepreneurs that are coming through, and just like, how do I get this? Like, how do I really make a business? How do I not work for somebody else, basically?
Yeah. So there's a few things that I would suggest. One is, surround yourself with mentors, surround yourself with people that you can lean on. I do a number of different businesses, but one of them is I'm a certified scaling up business coach. And, I had this conversation all the time with people when I'm coaching them one-on-one, is that nobody's born knowing how to run a $50 million company, or nobody's born knowing how to be a CFO of a $10 million company, or the CEO of a $500 million company, or even nobody's born knowing how to start a business and get your first 100,000 in the door. You've got to learn that somewhere. If you have the drive, that's the biggest thing. If you have the drive, you need to learn it. And that's where you rely on you rely on mentors, you rely on peer groups, you rely on, I know your dad's a big advocate of having a business coach. You rely on people, because nobody can do life on their own. I'm stealing one of your quotes there, Nigel, but nobody can do life on their own. They need the support of people around them. So I think a young entrepreneur getting into business, if you have the drive and you want to do it, don't be afraid, ask for help, get involved in peer networks. Like Entrepreneurs Organization is one that many of us know, but if you're smaller than that, there's Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator Program, meant for smaller business that don't qualify for the Entrepreneurs Organization yet. It's meant for them, to get them the support and the help and the knowledge to become large enough to qualify for EO. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And one of the fascinating things that I find interesting, I never ever had a problem approaching people and asking for help. I've never had a problem. The worst case, somebody says no to me, and so I've never had a problem. I've actually, I remember reading about a guy, and he was a maritimer, close to my heart, and he was named, the Globe and Mail named him the most powerful businessman in the country. I'm like, I got to meet this guy. So I literally cold called his office. I said, I'm a young maritime entrepreneur and I want to meet you. And he was in Toronto at the time. And I said, I'm willing to fly up to see you. You name the day, the time. And he said, sure. How's next Thursday morning? I said, I'm there. Meet me for breakfast here and here, whatever. So in there, I asked him, and his name was Purdy Crawford, an amazing, amazing, amazing individual. He's passed away. He passed away about 6-7 years ago now. But I was so fortunate to have him in my life for probably about 10 years. And he was incredible. And the first time I met with him, I said, would you mentor me? Because he had the connections and he had the knowledge. And, at the time I was doing some big things in my former business, and I would pass it by him. And I'd say, like, he was a guy, I was running into banking challenges, and I said, Purdy, what do I do? He said, listen, I know the chairman of the Royal Bank. I'll call him. So I called the guy, and they gave me a little more leniency, like coming from the chairman of Royal Bank all the way down through a local branch here in New Brunswick. But he was a guy who believed in my work ethic, my drive. And what I found, and then even through him, I said, I want to meet so-and-so, and he would set that up, and never had a problem asking for help, and never had a problem approaching people. And I always said, I was in college, I was the last guy that would have the guts to go up and walk up to the girl at the bar and talk to her. I didn't have the confidence to do that. But if I saw Bill Gates out, I'd sit down and just say, listen, I'd love to pick your brain. Can I sit down and join you for breakfast? I'd have no problem with that. Because worst case, he's going to say no, and that's fine. Maybe his security guys will say no. Who knows? But I'd give it a try. That's my point. But what I've always found interesting is that people who have been there and done it before in the business community, everyone, I would say anyone who's been successful has truly embraced, 99 out of 100 of them have embraced this sense of gratitude, and they're grateful for where they've gotten to, and they all recognize, anyone who's been successful recognizes, and they know they did not get there on their own.
Right.
Somebody helped them along the way. So there's nothing that gives a senior person in business more satisfaction than to help a younger entrepreneur.
Right. That's true.
And what's amazing, is how few people actually go out and ask for the help. The few that do, even my daughter's, so one of her friends learned about what my daughter's doing, and and my daughter said, my friend, she really wants to sit down and talk to you because she has this business idea. I'm like, I charge my time out at several $100s an hour when I'm doing coaching, but I'll absolutely sit down with your friend for a whole evening and we'll just strategize. And I think most senior business people are more than happy to do that. So my biggest piece of advice, Devin, it would be that if you've got the drive, get the knowledge, and you don't get that, you don't have that internally when you first start out in business. None of us do.
Right.
We learn it somewhere, read books, attend conferences, do those types of things, get education, but surround yourself with people that have been there and done it, and different mentors. Actually, a fellow friend of ours is Brian Scudamore. He calls it his MBA, his Mentorship Board of Advisors.
Yes.
And he says, I got a marketing question. He has forged a relationship with Seth Godin, and he'll call up Seth Godin and just strategize about marketing. He has a real estate question. He has his people to go to for real estate. Legal question, he has people to go to for legal questions. So build up a mentorship board of advisors, and he calls it his MBA. He's famous for, dropped out of college and started a junk company, but he surrounded himself with his MBA, right? And anybody young in business can do that. And it's amazing how receptive people are to it.
Wow.
So, and somebody who's been there and done it will shortcut and, lead you through that minefield that will blow up, because it's less than 3% of businesses ever get to $1 million, right?
Yes, that's
revenues.
Wow.
And they'll help you navigate that minefield and avoid all of those landmines that could potentially blow you up. So get the knowledge inside of you and get it from others.
And I think you're right that, your time, you charge it to clients at X amount, right?
Yeah.
But for somebody younger, like upcoming, we have all the time in the world. I mean, same with me. Like I love to, before COVID and everything, I think I was having more coffees with young people than I've ever had. I was like, hey, I'd love to go for coffee and chat and see what their ideas or their business idea or what they're thinking about doing, or some shift out of the corporate world to doing something on their own. Got all the time in the day
the only thing I always did, which I think helped, is when I asked for someone to be a mentor of mine, I was always very respectful of their time, right? Because that's their one resource. These people have all the money in the world, but they can't buy more time. So you have to be extremely respectful of that. And I would say, listen, what I would love, if we can get together once a quarter, once a month would be great, but I want to be respectful. If you're comfortable with once a quarter, let's do that. Breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever, is always on me. And I promise you, I will not waste your time. I would actually say that. I promise you, I will not waste your time, because I'll come every time we get together. I will have a subject and challenges. I will have a topic to talk through. It's not going to be for just chit chat. And they love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember another maritimer, Annette Verschuren. I was in retail business, so I went to meet Annette Verschuren. She's the one who brought Home Depot to Canada and also to China. And she's a fellow maritimer. Unbelievably smart lady. And she agreed to mentor me when I was in retail as well. And she was the only person I ever met who had two assistants, one to manage her personal calendar, one to manage her business calendar. So that's a busy person. And I asked her to mentor me, and she said, okay, one condition, I've always got to learn from you as well. So share something new that you're doing, because I want to learn from you. And I thought that very fair. But there was my challenge.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it's got to be worthwhile for them as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Whew. So I guess we'll be, I don't want to wrap it up on any other notes there, Devin?
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And you don't have to have it all yourself, but you have to know where to get it. There's a famous saying that Henry Ford was once asked, some technical question or something, and he couldn't answer the question. I think it was in court.
Yeah.
And they said, what, you don't know the answer to that question? He said, no, but if you give me a phone, I can call the person that can give you an answer inside of 2 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's good. That's so true. Yeah.
But drive is everything, Devin. You've got the drive. I know you do. I've seen, keeping up with your dad stuff and hearing the stories. You've got the drive. Get some knowledge and get it from others, and have a plan and work towards it.
Thank you. Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yes, I will remember these things. Oh my God. Well, let's wrap it up. This has been so good. Let's wrap it up with one final question here, actually. So you could go, so I know you're talking about your mentors, and obviously you had lots of good mentors in your life, from your dad to your senseis, I can imagine, loads of other people, business coaches and whatnot, or business type people. But what would be your message to a younger version of yourself if you went back to the young Andy in high school and you got to go and tell him what have you learned, your wisdom in life that you would share?
I would say the number one thing is that if you're open to it, there's always going to be opportunities. There's no shortage of opportunities, and to be patient and go after the right ones. Because I was too impatient and I lost everything in the pursuit of something and just driving it too hard, too fast, too hard. And I imploded through just growing too fast. Right. But I've since learned, be patient. You can far exceed your goals if you're patient and go after the right opportunities. Right. Because there's a ton of opportunities. There's no end to the opportunity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
That would be my advice to my younger self.
That is a great point, and we are going to wrap it on that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If you guys want to learn more about Andy, check out his books, check out Tulip Media Group. We're going to put it in the link in the description. Other than that, any final words? And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No, I just I'm always excited about life and about what life has to offer for you, for Nigel, for myself, for everybody, and for all the listeners. So I think we're going into a good era post-COVID.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And we love your tulip jacket too, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that.
We help you be the red tulip in the sea of yellow. So that's hence the tulip jacket.
Sweet.
But awesome. We're going into the roaring 20s again.
We are,
like it was 100 years ago. It's happening now, and you're going to see the economy growing immensely over the next 5-10 years. So if you want to become an entrepreneur and you want to go after your dreams,
now's the time. Now's the time. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's just we're on the launch pad. It's going to take off in the next few months. So we can feel it. Everything is just like this, ready to pop. So yeah. Thanks so much, Andy.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It was great.
Okay.